Hello and welcome to VizTerra Fundamentals. My name is Joan and I'm going to be working with you on a basic design from beginning to end, working through each phase and stage of the software. We need to open the VizTerra software by going to the desktop and double-clicking on the VizTerra icon. That's going to take us to the Start screen. On the Start screen, we can open a new project, open an existing project, go to one of the last 4 designs that we've been working on, read the Structure Studios blog, and access valuable resources and support. We want to open a new project, so left-click on New Project. This takes us to Project Information. Let's name our new project. Project folder name. Let's go ahead and name this Fundamentals. We have to name our project in order to begin the project. Now we can go down to Start Project, and that's going to take us to Stage 1, Project Information. The first thing I want to do here is describe the different parts of the screen that you're seeing, the interface. The grid in the middle of the screen we can refer to as the grid or 2D view. Then at the top of your screen we have the application bar. Over on the right-hand side, we have the panel menu. So I'll tell you exactly which sections of the panel menu that we're going to. And this is really organized very similarly in all of the stages. So once you kind of get the hang of it, it's really easy to learn. At the very top of that panel menu, there are some icons that represent the phases of the program. And if you understand how it's organized, it's very helpful. The pencil is the design phase, the wood block is the materials phase, the plant is the landscaping phase, finalize phase is next, and then we have the construction phase. So we're going to cover everything except for the construction phase. That is a different training. So each one of these phases has stages in it, and it's really important that you do the right work in the right stage and you pay attention to what stage that you're in. So we're going to go in order through the stages today. Left-click on the title bar that says O1 Project Information, and you'll see those phases again, and then you'll see the stages that are in the phases. So for example, the design phase has 8 stages. We'll draw our house, our walls and fences, we'll change the terrain if needed, we'll add water features, hardscapes, planters, custom shapes. Then, when we have all of our core shapes in place, we'll go to materials and we'll apply the correct materials. In landscaping, we'll add plants and trees and yard accessories. Then in finalize, we'll do a practice presentation. I'll teach you how to navigate and drive a presentation. So that's sort of the roadmap of where we're going and how we're going to get there. And we're going to go in order. Stage 1, project information. This stage is really all about sort of pulling in any outside resources that you might use. For example, if you look in your panel menu, you'll see GIS. GIS is Geographical Information System. And we're not going to be using that today, or AutoCAD files or background images or 3D images. Some of those are covered in the tips and tricks class, the background image, for example. But we're going to start from scratch today, and we're just going to draw everything ourselves. And I'll give you all of the verbal instruction that you need to draw the shapes and give you all of the dimensions. And in the end, we'll have a complete design that kind of fits together like a puzzle. So we're really going to move forward past Stage 1, project information, and go to Stage 2, house, and start drawing the house. Go to the top left-hand corner of the panel menu, and to the right of Stage 1, project information, you're going to see a little white triangle. Left-click on that one pointing to the right, and that's going to take us to Stage 2, house. In Stage 2, house, we want to draw a shape that is the same shape as the dimensions of our client's house, and we want to close that shape, make it a complete shape, add doors and windows, and add a roof line and make it look as much like our client's house as possible. That's our objective. So before we begin drawing, I want to make sure that our grid and our settings are set the same so that what you're seeing and how it's working is the same way for you as it is for me. Go to the top of your grid and go to the middle of your application bar and left click on the word grid. I'm just going to have you set your grid to a 3-inch grid. And that way you'll be seeing the same thing that I'm seeing, and we'll have the same settings. So there's no rule that says, you know, you have to have your grid at a 3-inch grid to draw a house. This is just a suggestion. Then slide over to the right of that and open up your snaps and constraints. And these controls, or these functions control how your tools and your shapes are sort of working with the grid. When you want your line tool and your shapes to snap onto the grid, if you're drawing geometric shapes especially, you want all of your snaps and constraints on. And down below that, we want our angle snap set to relative. And that's going to keep those lines nice and straight for us, so we don't have to work really hard to keep them straight. The system's going to pull them straight for us. Right, one more thing over to the right of that, hide and unhide. We don't really have anything to hide yet, but down at the very bottom of the hide and unhide, we have 3 options for how we want our measurements displayed. I'm going to go with stage measurements so that you will see the dimensions on my screen and I won't have to have them selected for you to see them. All right, so now we're all set to begin drawing. Go over to your panel menu and go up to the top in your 8 core tools. Look for your line tool and left click on that. Then I want you to go to the middle of your grid. You can kind of zoom in a little bit. Roll your scroll wheel away from you if you want to zoom in to see the grid a little closer. Left click and come up 17 feet. I'll show you how to type in the dimensions for your shapes. So if I give my line that upward direction, I can look down at my keyboard, type in 17. Look at the cursor on my screen. It says 17 feet. If that's the right value, and it is, I'm going to press enter and I'll have a 17-foot line segment. Now we can zoom and pan with our middle scroll wheel. Zooming in and out with your middle scroll wheel, panning by pressing down your middle scroll wheel like a button. And you can zoom and pan, and whatever line you have that's still active, like this one, is just going to hang out and wait for you to get positioned or in the right orientation. Okay? So I'm going to come to the right here. I'm going to come to the right 24 feet and 9 inches. So I'll show you how to type in feet and inches. You just take your line in the direction that you want it to go. So to the right, 24 on your keyboard. Look at your cursor. It says 24 feet. To move over to the inches part of that value box, press the space bar on your keyboard, and that moves you over to the inches. You can type in 9. And now I have 24 feet and 9 inches. That's correct. So I'm going to press enter. When you're drawing, if you make a mistake, you can right click and that will undo the last line segment so that you can redraw it. So if you ever make a mistake and you look up, you can right click. That's your immediate undo button. So I'm going to zoom out here. So far so good. Roll my scroll wheel away from me, or I'm sorry, towards me to zoom out, and pan up. Press down on your middle scroll wheel, pan up, and then come straight down 52 feet. 52 feet even, so just 52, enter. Now I'm coming to the left 50 feet and 9 inches. So it's going to be 50, space bar, 9, enter. Now I'm coming straight up 35 feet even and coming to the right. As you turn that corner, if you look at your shape right here, you'll see a dashed yellow line, and that dashed yellow line means that this is the path to closing your shape. And if this is where you want to close your shape, you can just press enter and it will auto close. That's called the auto close feature. You don't have to close it there, but if it's where you want to close it, press enter. And now we have a complete shape. We're going to go over to our toolbar and click on our Move tool, and we're going to look at selecting and deselecting our shapes. With the Move tool, if you left click anywhere away from your shape, you've deselected it. But to select your shape, you have to be on the line of the shape, on the line that you drew. So you're going to left click on the line of the shape. That's going to select it. That's really important because if you don't have your shape selected, you can't make any changes to it. So with your shape selected, look over at your house options and your height. We can choose a 1-story house, a 2-story house, or roof only, or we can apply whatever value we want. Let's left click on the 2-story house icon and double that value and make it a 2-story structure. The roof line should automatically be on, and the pictures beside the roof button are ways that you can modify your roof line, but those are intended to be done in 3D. I'll show you how to do those when we go to 3D. Roof pitch is 7/12, overhang is 1 foot, roof trim is on and at 6 inches, interior wall is on my screen. If you don't have yours on, you can go ahead and turn it on, and the floor on. It just makes the inside of the house look more realistic in my opinion, so that's my personal preference. So we've got a house. It's a 2-story house, and I'm going to left click away from my house to deselect it. I've modified the height. Now I want to see my house in 3D. Go to the top of your grid, and in the application bar you have a 2D 3D toggle. Right now we're in 2D and we want to go into 3D, so we're going to left click on 3D and we have our house, and we're kind of should be looking at it from a bird's eye perspective like this. And that's the typical angle of the camera. The camera locks into the middle of the grid, and this is the angle of the camera when you first go into 3D. So to navigate in 3D, you can roll your scroll wheel forward and backward to zoom in and out. You can also hold down your right mouse button and move your mouse away from you or towards you. They both will zoom you in and out, but the right mouse button is a little bit smoother, so that's what I do. That's my preference. You can hold down your left mouse button and change the angle of your perspective, so you've got an eye level perspective instead of a bird's eye perspective. Then you can rotate around so you're looking at the back of the house. This L-shaped part of the house is the back of the house. This is where we're going to spend most of the time putting in our hardscapes and our water features. If you are looking at a picture of your client's house and you're looking at this back side of the house, which is, we're not going to do anything on the sides or the front, we're just going to focus on the back. And you notice that the roof line is different on this house than your client's house. That is something that you can fix in 3D. Double left click on your house to select it, and you will have a kind of a red shape, and you'll have a set of arrows. We're not going to use those arrows. That's the 3D gizmo. It is the move tool of the 3D world, but we really don't want to move our house, so we're going to stay away from that. What we want to do is get kind of this bird's eye perspective. So hold on your left mouse button and pull your mouse towards you so you can see your roof line. Take your cursor over the roof line and kind of move it around, and you'll notice that the system separates your roof line into sections, and they're highlighted in blue. Well, in order to modify a section, you need to left click on it one time. So I'm going to left click on this triangular section right here, because in the picture that I have of my client's house, that is a gabled roof and not a pitched roof. So I'm going to go over to my panel menu, and next to roof line I have a picture of a gabled roof line. I'm going to left click on that, and that will take that pitched section, pull it straight up, and make the material changes that are necessary. To see this without the highlighting and the gizmo and the white triangle, go to the top of your screen and left click on the circle with the line through it. That will deselect any shapes that you have selected. Technically, you can double click on your house to select it and double click on your house to deselect it, but I like to make sure that you know about this circle with the line through it, because there will be times when you have multiple shapes selected. All right, so now we are ready to go back into 2D to put some doors and windows on our house. I'll go up to the top of my screen and left click on the 2D toggle. Going back into 2D, I'm going to zoom in on this 24-foot 9-inch wall. Point your cursor there and roll your scroll wheel away from you. You want to be nice and zoomed in. Your work's going to be more accurate. You're going to make fewer mistakes. And the door's a small shape, so you want to be zoomed in and you want to make sure you get it in the right place. And I'm not really going to create any measurements or anything like that. I just know they have a 6-panel door over here on the right side of this wall. So that's where I'm going to put it. And the doors are in the library, which is on the left side of your screen. So come over to the left side of your screen, left click on the library tab, and what we're looking for are doors, right? So look at the door category in the library. There are 90 doors, and there's a little green circle with an exclamation point. That means that in the last update, they released new doors, so I got new doors in my library. We need 6-panel doors. So let's see if there's a subcategory for 6-panel doors. Left click on the white triangle and you'll see a list of all the subcategories. So we don't have to look through all 90 to get the doors that we need. 6 panels right there up at the top. So left click on 6-panel and you'll see 2 of each color. One will have a symbol that shows that door opens left. One will have a symbol that shows that door opens right. If that's a detail that you're concerned about, we've got you covered on that. I'm just going to left click on the light oak left swing and select it. I'm going to left click on it one time to select it. Then I'm going to insert one. Down at the very bottom of the library, you're going to see insert one. Left click on that. Bring your cursor over and just drag that door to the right side of the 24-foot 9-inch wall and snap it onto the inside of the wall. So what basically what you're going to do is you're going to touch your cursor on that wall. That's where the door recognizes that as a wall, flips and rotates and snaps on, and then all you have to do is left click and drop it in. It does most of the work. Okay, but it goes onto the inside of the wall because it cuts through the wall. So that's successful. If you've done it correctly, then your house should be green. That means that those 2 shapes are connected correctly. And if you deselect it and go into 3D, you will have a door. The material that we see on the house is probably different for everybody. It's random. I never know what I'm going to get. I have siding, it looks like here now, but the door, I know what I'm going to get because I picked that out. That was a template. Once we have all of our shapes drawn, we'll put the correct materials on our shapes. But the door looks great, so I'm ready to go back into 2D and put some windows in. So we'll go up to the top of our screen, left click on the 2D toggle. I'm finished with my library because I'm going to use a custom window option in my panel menu. So when I finish using my templates or my thumbnails here, I always uncheck them and collapse that list again so that my library is back to the way that it was. It's just a good habit to get into. And then I'm going to close my library. And I'm going to show you how to make a custom window. Just in case you ever need to make a custom window, it's a great feature. So over in your panel menu at the bottom of your house options, you have insert window and it gives you 2 choices, rectangle or arched. We're going to insert a rectangle window on the 26-foot wall. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on that 26-foot wall, left click on rectangle, bring over my little generic window, same thing as the door. It's going to snap on to the inside of the wall and cut through. So I'm just going to left click and drop it in. House should turn green. And now I have window options, and they were not there before. Look over at your window options. So I'm going to make some changes to my window to make it look like what my client's window looks like. And I am going to set the height of that window to 4 feet 0 inches. I'm going to set the width to 5 feet 0 inches. I'm going to turn the glass on, the window casing on, and the window panes on, and I'm going to change the value of the row and column for my window pane. I'm going to make 3 rows and 3 columns. So those changes have been applied to the window because it was selected the whole time. So as I was clicking away, everything was applying as I'm going. You can actually do that in 3D and watch it change. So if you're just, relying on just aesthetically or conceptually making it look like what you're seeing in a picture, you can do that in 3D. I had the values in my notes so I can just tell you what they are, and we can go into 3D and look at it. Let's go into 3D and see the window. My window was selected in 2D, so it is currently selected with the gizmo. I don't need to move it. It's in a good location, so I'm going to deselect it with the circle with the line through it. And I'm just going to make sure it looks right because I'm going to copy and paste it and create 3 more because I have 3 more windows just like this one. And to save some time, we're going to use the hotkeys for copying and pasting. So if your window looks okay, we'll go back into 2D and we'll copy and paste. Left click on your window to select it. Should have your move tool by default, so you should be ready to go to just left click on that and select it. See the little crosshairs symbol on your cursor? That's the move tool. It's kind of your home tool. When you're not drawing, you should be seeing the move tool. So with your window selected, I'm going to have you press Control C. Nothing is going to happen because that shape just went into memory in the system. Now I'm going to press Control V as in Victor, and that's going to produce the copy of the window. Okay, so I'm going to put this one on the right side of the 26-foot wall. And then I'm going to paste 2 more on the 24-foot 9-inch wall. So I'm going to pan and zoom, Control V, Control V. That's V as in Victor. I'm going to go into 3D and check it out. Anything that you insert, create, draw, any surface in this picture can be changed. So, I can go into the materials phase of the program and I can change the window panes. I can change the window casing. I can change the color of the door. I can change the house material. So anything can be changed. So don't worry about how the material, is looking right now. We'll make those changes in the materials phase of the program once we get all of our core shapes drawn. So I left a space right over here in between these 2 windows. And if you didn't, that's okay. We can fix that back in 2D. But I left a space here for a sliding glass door. So I'm going to be putting a sliding glass door here, but I'm not going to use the library. We're going to take a custom window and we're going to make it look like a sliding glass door. It just kind of is an exercise in creativity. It's showing you how flexible some of these tools are. So we're going to go back into 2D and zoom in on the 26-foot wall. If you feel like you don't have enough room, left click on the door and the windows and just slide them over a little bit. Okay, just kind of eyeballing it, using the grid. I like to use the grid to kind of as a measuring device. I'm not going to get my measure tool out and measure every window. But now I have enough space for my sliding glass door. So I'm going to go over to my Insert Window option, click on Rectangle, bring my little generic window over, snap it onto the inside of the wall, left click and drop it in. Now we're going to change this a lot to make it look like a sliding glass door, but it really is going to look like a slider. Go over to your window options, and with your window selected, you can change your height to 7 feet, 0 inches, the width 6 feet, 0 inches, glass on, window casing on. Window casing is going to look like door casing. Window panes are going to be on, and this is really what makes it look like a slider. Change the row count to 1 and the column count to 2, and it's that 2 columns of glass that make it look like a sliding glass door. Now leave your window selected in 2D and go into 3D. We're going to need that gizmo. The 3D gizmo is going to be necessary here, and you can clearly see why. See, Auto elevation is a function in the software that puts objects at the elevation that they're supposed to be, or at a suggested elevation. So, for example, it put the house on the ground and it put the door, 6-panel door on the ground, but it put those windows up 3 feet on the side of the house. And so since technically this is a window, that's where this went too. So this is where the gizmo really comes in handy. And if you didn't have your door selected and you need to select it and get your gizmo, double left click on it. Then you're going to take your cursor over that blue arrow, hold down your left mouse button and pull it down to the ground. Just manually kind of take over. Move that down where it's supposed to be. And then to get rid of the gizmo, you can double click on your door, or you can click on the circle with the line through it, and we have the downstairs done. Of course, if you were working on your own and it's a working project, I would say I'd probably put my upstairs windows in too. So you would put those in, use the gizmo to move them up, and then over in your object settings, once you've put those in, you will want to turn your auto elevation back on. And that is in your object settings. When you move something with the gizmo, auto elevation turns off. It's the system just kind of saying, okay, you want control of the elevation, turns itself off, and it doesn't turn back on by itself. You have to turn it back on. But it's a good feature. Things are going to typically go where they are supposed to go. All right, so I just want to kind of review the navigation tools that we learned in 3D. We can zoom in and out with our right mouse button or a middle scroll wheel. You can rotate your angle of your perspective. Okay. Also, you can press down on your middle scroll wheel like a button and pan. So you can pan just like you did in 3D. I use this a lot. Like if I want to zoom in on the door, I can zoom in and then pan over and get a really good look at it. All right, we've got a house, we've got some doors and windows, we learned how to modify the roof line. Let's go back into 2D and we're going to move on to the next stage. But since we've done some work here, I'm going to save my work. In the top left-hand corner, you have an orange little disc icon. Left click on that, and that's going to give you a hard save, and you're going to move on to the next stage. That's going to take you to stage 3, walls, fences, and railing. Now, in stage 3, walls, fences, and railing, we have a different situation. We do not have to close our shapes. This is one of the few times in the program where you don't have to close your shapes. So you can stop and start drawing whenever you want to. You can draw a section. You can call it a wall. You can draw another section. You can call it a fence. And we're going to do that. We're going to do the bigger section around the house is going to be the wall, and then we're going to have a small fence section. So we'll actually be working with both to see how they both work. So I'm going to zoom out, roll my scroll wheel toward me, and see the entire house. The roof line lines are gone because we don't really need them. It kind of simplifies things. We're going to go up to the top of the panel menu and activate the line tool. Zoom in on the bottom right-hand corner of the house. Point your cursor, roll your scroll wheel away from you, and zoom in. Your house should be on the grid because we drew it on the grid. But if you ever inadvertently move it and it doesn't seem to be on the grid, grab your move tool and drag it back onto the nearest grid line, because it's, especially with geometric shapes like we're working with today, it's just so much easier to have your shapes on the grid. So mine's on the grid. I'm ready to begin drawing from the bottom right-hand corner. I'm going to left click and I'm going to come to the right 5 feet even. So I'm just going to type that in, 5, enter. And then I'm going to zoom out and pan down. I've got to zoom out a lot because I've got really quite a long wall section over here on the right-hand side. It's going to be 80 feet even, so 80, enter. Once we've drawn it, then we'll establish what we want this to look like, whether we want it to look like walls, fences, or railing. All right, I'm still drawing. I turn the corner to the left, type in 74 feet, enter, and then come down 80 feet again, 80, enter. And then I like to stop drawing here by pressing the escape key on my keyboard, and that stops the drawing process. After I've drawn it, I go over to my walls, fences, and railing, and I left click on wall style. I want this to look like a wall. And when I click on wall style, I have 3 different parts of the wall that I can work with independently. I can work with the wall, and you look at the picture and it kind of highlights in white what part of the wall you're working with. So you can work with the wall. The height of the wall is 6 feet 0 inches, and the thickness, I'd like for that to be 6 inches. Okay, and if you need to change that to match mine, go ahead and change those values. Then left click on wall cap and see the options that you have there. The width can be changed, the profile or the style can be changed. Pillars can be changed. Click on pillars for me, please. If your wall doesn't have pillars, you can just turn your pillars off. If they do, you can make the width look like what you want it to look like, the height. Let's see here. Let's make the spacing of the pillars 37 feet 0 inches. 37 feet 0 inches. And then let's take a look at that in 3D. Okay, I'm going to zoom out, and my wall was selected in 2D, so it's selected in 3D, and I really want to deselect that so I can see what the material looks like. So I'm going to go up to the circle with the line through it, get rid of the gizmo, and I've got defaulted materials, wall material, cap, pillar. Any surface can have any material applied to it in the materials phase. So we won't worry about material application, just want to make it look structurally like what it's supposed to look like. And then I'm going to rotate around and see the other side down here. This section that's open here, we're going to put a fence section here. So basically doing the same thing. You draw the section, then you apply the style, make any modifications. Let's go back into 2D. Up at the top of your screen, left click on the 2D toggle and zoom in to the bottom left-hand corner of the house. So point your cursor there, roll your scroll wheel away from you, and you'll zoom in nice and close because this is a small section. It's 17 feet and 3 inches. So what I would do is activate my line tool, start at the bottom left-hand corner of the house, come to the left, 17 feet and 3 inches. And you can press escape to stop drawing. Go over to the walls, fences, and railing options and click on fence railing. And just like with the wall, it's kind of separated into 3 different sections or components. You've got posts, boards, rails, and so you can really customize this and make it look as much like your client's fence as possible. Or what if they don't have a fence and that's something that you do? Then you can make it look like the fences or the walls that you're going to build. So you just click on each one of these sections. I'm not going to make any modifications to this one like I did the wall because I'm just going to conceptually make it look like what I want it to look like in 3D. So this is another option. Go into 3D and you're going to have some kind of fence, something that is transparent, has some kind of transparency to it, but it doesn't have to be. You can open up your library. I'm going to leave my fence selected because it needs to be selected, and I'm going to open my library up, and there we go. And then I have what we call fence presets. So here's my fence presets: aluminum and chain link and iron spear top, safety fence. I call this vinyl 3-rail. I call it the country style fence, the white picket fence. Double left click on any one of those. Just double click on it. Okay, so I'm going to go with this aluminum flat, but I want you to look at this. If you zoom in close, I can see I'm not really liking the spacing of these posts. So it looks like I'm missing a post. So what you typically do if you want to produce more posts is you decrease the spacing. So let's see if that works. Go over to your style options and left click on posts. And I'm going to go to the spacing, and I'm just going to decrease it inch by inch until I have another one and it looks like what I want it to look like. I only had to decrease it a couple of inches, but that produced another post for me. And I like the way it looks. Now I realize that this would probably have a gate on it. In the accessories part of the program, there are gates that you can insert here. They're just not available in this library. Okay, I'm going to close my library, go back into 2D, and we are finished with stage 3, walls, fences, and railing. So I'm going to save my work at the top left-hand corner, and I'm going to move on to the next stage. Go to the top of your panel menu, left-click on the next stage button, and we will be in stage 4, terrain. In this stage, we insert points that indicate any changes in elevation, and then we apply the elevation height. If you look over at your panel menu, in the terrain options, you're going to see 2 buttons. One says multiple, one says single. Left click on single. We're going to be working with a single direction slope today for this project. When you click on the single button, your screen is going to change, and you're going to have a split screen. You're going to have your grid, your house, your wall and fence in the top half, and in addition to that, you're going to see a white dotted line going down the middle of the grid. That's called the slope direction line. Down in the bottom half of the screen, you're going to see a kind of a long flat line there. That's indicating the slope profile. Currently, there's no elevation. It's 0 elevation in every direction, so it's currently flat. But as we make changes, in the top half, we'll see the profile of our slope. So the little plus sign that you see attached to your cursor, that's the tool that you need. So there's no need to go over and get any tools. We are ready to just insert the points. Zoom in the top screen where the back wall is, and where that white dotted line intersects with the back wall, we're going to left click, and that is going to insert our first point. You're going to see a 0 because that's what the current elevation is. We're going to go over to the panel menu, and in the slope line point section, down towards the bottom, you'll see a 0 feet, 0 inch value box there. Point height is what that value is. So the point height here is going to be 5 feet. That's the top of our slope, kind of like a short exaggerated slope or a berm. So I'm just going to left click on the up arrow and change 0 feet to 5 feet. Then I'm going to come back over, and below that on the white dotted line, I'm going to left click, and I'm going to get a value by default, and I'm going to change that to 0 so I can make a slope going from 0 up to 5 along that back wall. So I'm going to go back over to my point height value box and change the value to 0 feet, 0 inches. And then, of course, down in the bottom half, you're going to notice that you now have a profile. And down at the bottom of that profile, you're going to see the distance between the 2 points. You can set that distance by left-clicking and dragging the 0 in the top half of the screen. So let's say that we've gone out and we've measured, and we know that that distance should be exactly 10 feet from 0 to 5. So just take your cursor up to the top half of the screen, left click on the 0, and either take it further away from or closer to the 5. Watching down at the bottom, when you get to 10 feet, that's the distance that you want. And if you have any trouble getting the exact value like I am, you can zoom in, and that gives you more control over that. There we go. Exactly 10 feet between those 2 points. Now look down at the bottom half of your screen in the profile section. There's my profile. So here's my berm going up the back wall, and everything to the left here is actually the where we're going to put our shapes for our design. That's where the build is going to be. That's where the hardscape, the water feature. So we have a feature in our panel menu that allows us to tighten this and make it perfectly level. Currently it's a little bit unlevel. You can tell by looking at it, it's a little uneven. So over in your panel menu, right above the point height where we were inserting the values there, you're going to have a terrain detail slider. On one side it says smooth and on the other side it says tight. Left click on the bar and drag the bar to the right and tighten that terrain. It's going to make it perfectly level. All right, let's take a look at this in 3D. Left click on the 3D toggle at the top of your screen and we will go into 3D and take a look at that slope going up the back wall. Kind of zoom in on it. You'll see a circle attached to your cursor, and that's part of a set of tools called the terrain tools you'll notice in your panel menu. Now, those tools and the multiple slope feature are covered in terrain training, so if you'd like to learn more about features that we didn't cover in fundamentals, either watch the tutorial on the help page or look for terrain training on the training calendar. All right, there's my berm in 3D. I'm going to go back into 2D and I'm going to save my work. I'm ready to move on to the next stage. Go to the top left-hand corner, left click on the little disc icon, and then go to the top of your panel menu and left click on the next stage button. And that's going to take us to stage 5, water features.